Welcome to the Hemlock State Explorer. Today we're on an adventure to one of Lancaster County's most popular preserves and swimming holes, Tucquan Glen, or some folks call it Tucquan Glen or Tucquan Glen, or any combination of those. Today we're parking at the Clark Nature Preserve, and here's a map that we'll share with you at hemlockstateexplorer.com where you can find all the details. But we'll park up here and then follow that blue trail to House Rock, a scenic overlook, although because of the fog today we're not expecting to really see anything. But this is just a means then to get out to the cliffs of the river where we'll follow the trail down to Tucquan Glen, which is off the map here. The reason we're parking up at the Clark Preserve is because the parking area immediately located at Tucquan Glen is closed and has been closed indefinitely for several years now due to overuse and people just junking up the area, which is very unfortunate. It ruins it for the rest of us. Oh, by the way, here's right at the beginning of the trail some ruins. There were lots of old farms in this area, so I would expect to find many ruins. I don't know what it would have been, a home or a barn. Well, here's a concrete slab foundation. This is pretty cool. Already at the beginning of the trail, we're finding interesting things. Here's more stonework down here. We get a view of the interior, but not to get too far pulled aside. There's another information kiosk. This Clark Nature area has a large parking lot. We'll pan to the right so you can see, and a portable latrine. This is part of the Conestoga Trail system, so you can actually access a lot of trails from this parking area. Very well maintained, as the Susquehanna Conservancy tends to be. And we'll head out here. We can go either way, to the right or to the left. The left tends to be an easier trail, but I would prefer to travel along the river, even though we won't see much. And that way is to the right. And if you're so inclined, you can stop and read this informational sign. We've been here a number of times. What's on the other side? Yeah, just some more posters. One of the reasons we wanted to come to Tucquan Glen today is because it is a rainy, overcast day, and that serves two purposes. One is this is, like I said, one of Lancaster County's most popular preserves. So if you visit here in the summer, it is nearly overrun with other adventurers. A lot of them are swimming, and there are parts where you can jump into swimming holes. So I mean, it's for good reason that it's so popular. And two, we've had about 2 days of rain, so I'm hoping to see some voluminous cascades. Unfortunately, I don't know what, if any, the plan is to reopen the parking area immediately at Tucquan Glen. It's closed indefinitely, but I'll do some research, and whatever I find you can look up at hemlockstateexplorer.com. But that's just as well, because it'll be a wonderful hike along the Susquehanna. You'll notice I have a bit of a stuffy voice. I'm on the tail end of a cold and thankful to be recovering from that. And I'm sure getting back outside in the fresh air will do me some good. And this is a nice, easy to moderate adventure, perfect for novices and people with young children. And as you can see right now here at the very beginning of the trail, at least, it's crushed gravel, so it really couldn't be any easier. And by way of reminder, all of the adventures we share with you at Hemlock State Explorer are places we are actually visiting. I hate to have to say that, because so much content out there seems to be AI generated, but not with us. It is our joy to share these places with you, and we want to give you the real deal and everything that you need to know before you go from personal experience and our own personal research. Besides, AI, as far as I know, typically doesn't simulate slips. But in any case, with that said, here's House Rock straight ahead. And here we are, at the top of House Rock, as is indicated by this inscription. And unfortunately, but as expected, not much to see on account of the fog. But that just proves to you we're not AI. It typically doesn't simulate suboptimal views. But in any case, when you visit here, visit on a nicer day, and we'll come back, Lord willing, in clear weather so we can share these views with you. I was here in the summertime, about mid 80-degree weather, and saw some 5-lined skinks up on the rock, and tried to catch up with one. They were just way too fast, and it scurried down over the edge and into a crevice. But there's some of the cool things that you can see in this region of Lancaster County. There's a interesting big flat rock. Not really a cave, but just a flat rock on top of some others. Being very careful. These rocks are slippery when wet. But in any case, we're not really here to see House Rock. This was just an interesting stop along the way as we journey to Tucquan Glen. We've just crossed Reed's Run, and what I want to draw your attention to is that sound in the distance. You can barely see it through the trees, but you can sure hear it. That's a train. So we're heading back up the hill. One thing to note is that in this region of the lower Susquehanna, the Susquehanna actually flows through a wide gorge, so you have cliffs on either side, and then anytime a tributary flows into the Susquehanna, well, you have a deep ravine like this. So we could have traveled downstream on Reed's Run and followed the railroad tracks into Tucquan Glen, but the railroad tracks are private property and it is trespassing to walk along them, and I wanted to share with you that it is an active railroad, so even for safety reasons you wouldn't want to walk along it, but just hustle your way up the hill and you'll be just fine. We've made it to the top of the Reed's Run ravine, and here's a rock outcropping with an interesting pillar, almost monument-like rock. We'll take a walk out on these slabs and see how much of the river we can view from up here. Not much on account of the trees, but in any case, here's that interesting rock. Looks like an anvil almost. Zoom out. That's pretty cool. But our trail lies this way. We'll head up to the ridge and follow the ridge along the Susquehanna for, I believe, less than half a mile, and that'll take us right into Tucquan Glen. After a little less than a 2.5 mile hike from the Clark Preserve, we've reached the mouth of Tucquan Glen. You can see in the distance the cascades flowing through the boulders and the abundant mountain laurel on the slopes of the ravine. And as I pan downstream, you'll see the mouth of the Tucquan Creek. It flows underneath that railroad bridge into the Susquehanna River. That railroad bridge has no trespassing signs on it. It is crossable, but it's private property. If you want to be completely legit, you can take the White Blaze Trail that runs from the top of that ridge down the slope and then come to this little landing here and easily cross at this shallow section. It's a wet crossing, but We've had abundant rain the past 2 days, so the water levels that you see right here are higher than you would typically see, say during the summertime, which is the best time to visit so you can swim. But the downside of that is I guarantee you will have company. But isn't this enticing? Let's get up there and investigate. Oh, another thing I was not expecting is we have snow and ice on the trail. We've had a snowstorm maybe 2 weeks ago, and since then all the snow has melted, or most of the snow, rather than the other than the big piles from it being plowed and shoveled. And this reminds me of another fact of Tucquan Glen that I forgot to mention, is that during the summertime, one of the reasons it's so popular is that it is significantly cooler down here than on the plateau above. So this is a great place to go and just cool off and swim during the summertime. Because the lower Susquehanna flows through a gorge, its tributaries pass through a significant elevation change on their way down and often form multiple cascades through the ravine. And here you can see the slopes embellished with the beautiful mountain laurel. Happy to see some significant green like that this time of year. And there are even some interesting rock formations like that cubic one up on top of the ravine. What a great escape. It feels like we're almost in another world, deeply tucked down in here. Well, let's continue exploring. I think there are some larger cascades up ahead. Here's a good view of the gorge as it widens and makes a sharp curve around this rocky cliff. Many cascades down below. There's a lower trail that follows closer to the water, and then this upper trail marked by the orange blaze and the small bridge up ahead that seems to follow higher up on the gorge, but we want to get down closer to the water, so we'll take the lower trail. Let's hop on down and get a closer look at these cascades. You can see why this spot is so popular, with the soothing sound of the white water and the verdant ravine, and even the rock cliffs up above. Makes this a special place and escape from the world above. The water is really moving, and we're loving these rock cliffs. Check that out. And up ahead, it looks like there is a legit waterfall. We'll get out of wide angle. Okay, that's what it looks like under with the normal zoom. In the past, I've seen folks swimming down in that hole. I don't remember if they were jumping or not. There, it looks like some evidence of a campfire. Hey, we might even have a legit waterfall right there. Oh, what? Restoration in progress. What's that sign say? Restoration in progress. Area beyond this sign is closed. Well, that's really disappointing. Nice waterfall. Oh man, we'll have to come back another time. It looks like this is the trail I wanted to take, but it looks like we're going to have to take that orange blaze trail up above. Disappointing. Well, at least you know, so that when you come out here, you know what to expect. To be fair, there's a good reason the trail is closed. You see that it's completely washed out. There's the trail on the other side, and then that very nice small waterfall. But yeah, unfortunately the trail's washed out, and we'll abide by the sign. Here's the swimming hole right down here. It looks like it has a decent depth. Oh well, we'll come back at a future date, Lord willing, and hopefully be able to enjoy the rest of the trail and maybe even some swimming in the nice weather. So the Orange Bypass Trail does return to the water, and I have to admit it is pretty nicely done with stone steps, as you see right here. And the stone steps on the other side that we traveled up were even nicer. There was a small bridge and some log steps as well, indicating that a lot of work has been put into it and that the bypass trail is here to stay for a while. Now, whether that precludes the reopening of the lower trail by the waterfall, that's an answer I don't know yet. But in any case, don't be too discouraged. I thought we were going to be running along the rim of the gorge, or the ravine rather, away from the water. But although we missed the nicest feature, we are still back here along the creek and passing through what looks like almost a rhododendron wall. I don't think I'd call it quite a tunnel, but in any case, we're back down here where we want to be in the ravine. The water, well, however, looks much calmer upstream of the curve. Well, let's investigate further and see if there are more cascades or waterfalls up ahead. Well, there was a wet crossing at the rock outcropping that we just passed to the Orange Blaze Trail, but we chose to follow the Blue Blaze Trail on the south side of Tucquan Creek. It was rough going in parts. It was a narrow footpath, washed out in some places, but then we encountered this sign. We were hoping to make it to the road, but the trail is closed from this point forward. So in any case, we're not making it out of here with dry feet. We're going to make a wet crossing over to the Orange Trail on the other side. So you can either make the crossing, further upstream where we are. It actually looks a little bit more shallow here, and I would consider this to be relatively high water on account of the recent rains. Or you can make the crossing further below at the rock outcropping, but in any case, you're going to need to cross the stream. It's a nice looking stream. It has been calm and peaceful, much as you see it now. No more cascades or rapids or waterfalls after the trail rejoins, that upper trail, that is, rejoins the lower trail along the creek. This is the trail we would have been on had we crossed at the rock outcropping following the Orange Blazes, and the direction we want to go is behind us. But before we head that way, I still want to check out the parking lot situation and see if we can determine why they're closed and when they might reopen. Well, on the upside, here's something noteworthy: a small waterfall and a chimney. Well, we already have wet feet, so there's nothing stopping us from hustling on over there. What would this have been? The area on which it sets is not very flat, so I don't know if it would have been part of a structure. And you see here the opening is very small. Metal on top with, it looks like, a little latch, crudely fashioned out of local stone. Fascinating find. Take a walk around this side. There's a metal pipe at our feet, but I'll do some research and you can learn more about what exactly this was at hemlockstateexplorer.com. And while we're here, well, the location is pretty nice, right next to a cascading stream that flows over these rock slabs down the side of the gorge. Oh, pretty cool find. Was not expecting this. All right, well, let's continue on the parking to the parking lot and see what the story there is. We're at the River Road trailhead, and there's a sign that clearly indicates that the parking area is closed. Interesting, the advice given is to visit other preserves. And here's a nice new looking wooden fence with a locked gate. Let's see if there's any information at this kiosk. Well, here's a map, and this is a good opportunity to trace out for you the route we took. So here's my custom-made pointer. We actually started, way up here. Well, here it is, the Clark Nature Preserve, and then took the Orange Trail down into the area of the ravine. We'll let that car pass. The road is right behind us. So right here we took the white blazed, the upper fire trail down into the ravine, and then took the yellow lower fire, did I say fire? It's pyre. Lower pyre trail. And then here's that railroad bridge with a no trespassing sign, so you can make a wet crossing here to avoid the posted bridge. But at any rate, then we took the Orange Blaze Trail upstream. I prefer taking these cascade trails upstream. I like facing the cascades. It's just a better view in my opinion. And then here's that sharp curve through the ravine where the trail was closed at the waterfall. And then we took the trail back down to the water. Now, here's that rock outcropping right here where the Orange Trail crosses the Tucquan Creek. We actually followed below the creek on the Blue Trail, hoping it would lead us out to the parking lot. I've taken that way in the past, maybe in the mid-2010s, but it has been closed for a while now, it looks like. So at any rate, cross here at the rock outcropping, and then there's another wet crossing that we took, and then yet another wet crossing, and now we're up here. And we're up here at the road at this upper no parking symbol, and you can see there are clearly two parking areas, both crossed out. So now we understand why the parking areas are closed. Like I said, I visited here in the mid-2010s, and this place was a happening place. It was, at the time, probably the most popular nature preserve in Lancaster County, and parking was a problem. I remember hearing at the time overuse was a problem, and there was encouragement to make use of some of the other preserves. And I don't know the full story, but you can see for yourself that the Glen is in need of some restoration, and although it's disappointing that we couldn't enjoy all of it and that there were trails closed and multiple wet crossings, I am thankful that there are restoration efforts going on so that maybe it can reopen in the future. So yes, Tucquan Glen is technically open, but unless you have a strong driving desire to visit here, or you really don't have anything better to do and you live close, you may want to consider postponing your trip until the Glen has been restored and is fully open. But in any case, we're going to take the Pyre Trail up to the top of the ravine and then head back to the Clark Preserve. Well, that's another thing too. You're going to invest at least a 5-mile round-trip hike just to get here. Unless, of course, you just want the distance and the elevation for the workout. On the return trip from Tucquan Glen after Reed Run, we took some more inland trails and ultimately arrived on the Blue Blazed Ralph Goudon, or Goudon, not sure how to pronounce it, but anyway, we returned on that trail, which proved to be a more direct route and easier. So if you want to visit Tucquan Glen without traveling along the cliffs of the Susquehanna, you can take that route. Although it's longer, if it were a less foggy day, if it were more clear, we would have enjoyed some broken views of the river and even some scenic overlooks. But in any case, thanks for joining us, and you can find everything you need to know before you go, along with all of our other adventures at hemlockstateexplorer.com. And until next time, we can't wait to see you on the next adventure. So now we understand why the parking areas are closed. Like I said, I visited here in the mid-2000 teens, and this place was a happening place. It was, at the time, probably the most popular nature preserve in Lancaster County, and parking was a problem. I remember hearing at the time overuse was a problem, and there was encouragement to make use of some of the other preserves. And I don't know the full story, but you can see for yourself that the Glen is in need of some restoration. And although it's disappointing that we couldn't enjoy all of it and that there were trails closed and multiple wet crossings, I am thankful that there are restoration efforts going on so that maybe it can reopen in the future. So yes, the Glen is technically open, but unless you have, so yes, the Glen is technically open. So yes, Tucquan Glen is technically open, but unless you really have a strong driving desire to visit here, so yes, technically Tucquan Glen is open, and so yes, technically Tucquan Glen is open, but unless you have a real strong driving desire to visit here or don't have anything better to do, I would recommend that you postpone your trip until it's back in full functionality. So yes, Tucquan Glen is technically open, but unless you have a strong driving desire to visit here, or you really don't have anything better to do and you live close, you may want to consider postponing your trip until the Glen has been restored and is fully open. But in any case, we're going to take the Pyre Trail up to the top of the ravine and then head back to the Clark Preserve. Well, that's another thing too. You're going to invest at least a 5-mile round-trip hike just to get here. Unless, of course, you just want the distance and the elevation for the workout.